All right. On today's episode of doing a whole lot of nothing but a whole lot of everything, this is more behind the scenes stuff. This is going to be probably a smaller video. However, why not? This might help someone that might need it. So I have this old bandsaw. A buddy of mine named Jeremy gave it to me. This thing was actually one of the first bigger tools I've acquired when I started the business about 3 years ago. Well, I also have this one. I got two of them. This one cuts crooked. I dropped it and repaired it once. And the blade, it's still, you can kind of see it, it's pitched that way. But I dropped it and had to repair it years ago. So, since it does cut crooked, meaning you got to put the piece in here like this instead of flat against the base here. So, that one works good. I'm going to turn this into a vertical bandsaw. I'm going to get rid of this guy and make a plate that comes off. We'll fasten it here so that way it's nice and strong this way. We'll get rid of all this. You'll have yourself a natural seat as it is. I'm not getting rid of the base. We're going to keep it there. I'm also going to use one of these foot switches. I got this at Harbor Freight. I think they're like 15 bucks. So you just plug in your saw here. This cord will plug into the wall, and then you just hit that. But I am going to keep this old rinky-dinky switch. We're going to fix it up, but we're going to keep this as a safety also. So no one's accidentally stepping on the pedal, turning it on. You got to do a couple methods in order to do it. But yeah, we'll get rid of all this. We'll put the plate on there. And I just went down to my local steel yard and look what they had in their drops. And this is what I come up with. I don't know if I'm going to use all of it, but I'm not complaining. 1/4-inch aluminum. I'm not entirely sure on the size. It's 11 by 15, which I don't know which way I want to go with it yet. I think we might go with the wider side against the blade. But this will get sucked in there, and those are countersunk screws that hold that little plate in. So this plate was bolted to that with countersunk hardware. So I went to Ace, got a bag of nuts, got a nut sack here, and some bolts. We're using panhead for the outer, and then I got some 1032, or actually these are 1024 countersunk. That way you can screw in what that plate, or screw in where that plate was, but through our aluminum. And then I got some 1/4-inch countersunk as well. So I'm going to try not to do any sort of welding on this because I don't want this to distort any. So the first thing, before I can even build a base, is I need to figure out that spacing. And that's probably about how deep we're going to go in, because you got to think of two things. Well, first off, the first thing is, if you don't have a plate on there, it'd be almost impossible to cut stuff because it's just going to rip it down, because there's nothing to stop the material. There's nothing to resist the material as it's getting cut. And second thing is, you don't want it too short on the ends and also the backside. So if you're cutting a piece of exhaust or something, you still, as you're cutting it through, you don't want to fall off the backside and still try to grab. So you want to make it flat. And the reason why I'm doing this is, there's multiple reasons, is I already had the saw and it works, it just cuts crooked. Also, it's kind of hard to find a decently priced metal vertical bandsaw without, costing an arm and a leg. And two, I need to build this now because on this car, I'm building a full exhaust system. And I don't like using Sawzalls and none of that, so this will be a definitely good addition to the shop. And then when I'm ready to get a bigger one, give this to one of my buddies, put it in my home shop. I can do all kinds of stuff with it. So, and cool thing is about my material place is these drops, when you go out back and look, they charge you by the pound rather than the actual material itself. So all this stuff and that was also about 15 bucks. So I'm in this project. I was gifted the saw, 30 bucks. We'll just say 40 bucks with the hardware. And then probably 2 hours or so of time. So we'll see. I'm also not going to try to do a whole lot of voiceovers on this. I want to kind of make this video more of a simpler video without doing the crazy editing and all that. But right now I need to figure out our hole space in here. So we're measuring here on the outside of this hole. So I want to know what the inside of this hole is. That's going to tell you your hole center. So in this case, we burn 1. It's going to be 1 11/16 is our hole center. And this is the most accurate measurement we're going to do. I want to know the depth. Just going to run that up till it touches. And then get it square, obviously. So doing construction out here. So that's what I did, till it touched, right there, till it's relatively squared. I marked the back side of the roller guide, and that mark is going to be my center. The reason I'm doing that is so that way it gives there a gap here, and it's not rubbing or nothing like that. It's only going to be about a 1/2 inch gap in between there, which that's what I want. So that method worked out. So I made the mark on the back of our roller guide when it was touching. It's going to be our center line for our bolt holes. And now we've got to transfer all that. So now we're going to measure from that mark 3 inches. We're going to come over here, mark it at 3 inches. Play tic-tac-toe. Right there, right there. We're going to give it a little bit of one of those things. I prefer using a thinner pen, but evidently I don't have any more. Let me check. Found a thinner pen, so make it a little bit easier. The thinner it is, the more precise you can be. So we're coming down 3 inches. Some of this paint double here is giving me a headache. Just use acetone to wipe it off. I'm going to connect it. Okay, since that was 1 11/16 on hole center, we're going to do 15. Since I was 1 11/16 hole center, we're going to take 15, since that's the width of our plate here. 15 minus 1.687 divided by 2 equals 15 minus 1.687 equals divided by 2. From the edge of this plate, we're going to come in 6 32 over 5/8. So I'm going to do 6, as we call it, a cut hair. 6 cut hair over 5/8. And then that spacing should be 1 11/16. So now we're going to center punch those where they need to be. We're going to use a spring back, kind of like your ex-girlfriend at the club. Going to Hit it. Little tappity tap. So we need to drill those, and then we're going to countersink them. We're going to hit it with some squeege, the way it can not gum up. There's one. There's two. Normally I wouldn't wipe the shavings off like that, but this thing's gonna get beat to hell anyways, so I'm not too worried. The best method is give it an old blow, kind of like what you're used to doing in the alley. There we go. There it is. Okay, now this is where it can get a bit tricky. Now we got to put a slit in it. That way the blade can go through it, right? We can either cut it through the front and feed it from the back, but it'd be easier to put a blade on it. But if I cut it, that's a lot of material being relieved from the table. So if I cut it from the back and slide it on that way, well, actually that's the only way it can go on. Yeah, as much as I want to cut it from the front, I don't want to relieve this and make it any weaker. And I'm going to have fasteners through there anyway, so I'm going to have to take it off those fasteners regardless. So if I just cut it from the back, we undo these, the couple down at the base, and then the whole table can come out. Yeah, we'll do that. We'll make it from the back. We're cutting less out. So yeah, we'll cut it from the back. We'll hit it from the back, homie. So it looks like it measures 1 inch in front of our hole centers. So we'll mark it at 4. And then we'll probably just use the pneumatic saw to cut that. Once you get it in place, you turn the saw on, it'll self-clearance. I know it's gonna look like shit once I fire it up because it's gonna cut funny. Went ahead and cut a slit in it, put a plate on there just so I can cut that line. We'll just use this saw. That's what I'm trying to build. Funny how that works. Not the straightest thing, but it'll work. I put went about 1/8 inch past my line. That way it's not sides on sides with the blade. That way chips can fall. Just taking a V-file, clean out that groove. Okay, since we got those 2 fasteners there, it's still a bit flimsy to my liking. So we got to make some supports, and without trying to get crazy reinventing the wheel here, there is a threaded bolt hole right here. So I think my game plan is take some of this 1 inch, cut it down, weld a puck to the bottom with a offset hole so it can sit flat on there, and then use a C channel, have it bolt directly through. This is going to act as a stiffener to keep this straight, but also gives me something to weld to. And these guys are going to sit inside. We'll cut it at the angle and just wrap around that puck to create a V. I think that's my game plan. I'm just using some just random scrap material I found there, but also what I got laying here. When doing this stuff, you don't want to spend like $1 million on. And like I said, if it wasn't for this shit being so cheap, I wouldn't be using aluminum. But I needed something pretty rigid for the top so it doesn't flex. But everything just worked out with this material. Plus, I love working with aluminum, so it gives me a reason to do that. It's crazy how fast your workbench can fill up when you're doing a project. I'm just using a piece of 90 thou. We're just gonna hit this up real quick, clean it off. Okay, we're gonna do a slightly different but better design. Instead of having the puck on the side, we're gonna have it on this flat spot. So it took me a minute to get the saw blade square to my plate. So what I'm going to do is I just want it straight down from there. Tell me why it's such a pain in the ass to put string through one of these plumb bobs. Anyways, I'm using this plumb bob to tell me where do I want to put the center line or the edge of everything. Thought I was going to get the blue tape out, didn't you? Right there is the edge of the plate. Go ahead and get rid of all that. Spend more time trying to get that stupid ass string in there than I did for what I needed it for the job. Yes, the damn thing broke, so I have to use a piece of tube like I'm 60 fishing with a bottle. Okay, I'm gonna poke it with an 1/8 so that way the ID, the cookie that we're after, is close to 1 inch, which is the OD of our tube. Hit it with a 1/4 inch hole first. I like putting a 1/4 inch rod in there so the bit doesn't whirl everywhere. Keeps it more centered. Gonna hit it with some squirge. And that is what we're after. So I'm gonna go get this cleaned up, and then we're going to tack it to that tube. Okay, so I got the aluminum magnet on there holding our little cap on, so that way I can tack it. Lots got done since I last updated. Damn phone died, but I just kept on going, trying to get this done in somewhat of a timely manner. Got the holes drilled out. Got it down there drilled as well. I got the part sitting over here cooling. I decided to put a clamp on it. It got hot, but a little bit of acetone. But anyways, we're letting that cool off so I can put it back. That's just, let me show you something cool about this. It's a handheld bender. It's made for like brake lines and soft material stuff, so aluminum. And I found this 3/4 inch aluminum buried in my scrap over there. I didn't even know I had it. So I thought it looked cool making out a tube. However, it bothers me is I didn't have quite enough to make this straight. Well, I just used some 1/2 by 1/2 angle. It just is what it is, really. But that's all done did. Now I want to remove all this junk and get this foot pedal situated. Now it's all bolted up, got the bottom all cleared off with all that shit on there. Got a pedal. I didn't know this, but it is what it is on this. You push it down once, it turns it on. You push it down another time, it turns it off. Still pretty cool. I'm gonna keep the factory switch, but you can sit on it, and when you're working, I am gonna get rid of this. But when you're working, just hit it off. So I still got to find a home for this thing, but yeah, I think it came out pretty decent actually. And I will say it's not going nowhere. 1/4 inch countersunk hardware, used the factory 1024 machine screws. It's a nice little unit. And if I gotta take the blade off, undo that screw down in there, these two out of the way. I still gotta clean up this mess. Didn't realize how much shit I was gonna use to make that thing. But anyways, hopefully that was a video everyone seemed to like. There's more of the behind the scenes stuff. So it's probably not gonna be no voiceovers or nothing like that. But trying to post more frequent, and it's kind of hard when you're doing a project-based style videos. So if these work and everyone seems to enjoy them, I'll try to find more things to get myself into to post more. So thanks everyone for watching. Make sure you subscribed if you made it this far, and see you next time.